The following is a special presentation.
And now, all the way from Wisconsin, let's give a warm welcome to the Pulaski High School Red Raider Marching Band.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please welcome to the stage the City of Philadelphia's Director of Communications and City Representative, Desiree Peterkin-Bell.
Before we begin today's ceremony, I will ask that you join me for a moment of silence to honor the 19 firefighters of the Prescott Fire Department of Phoenix, Arizona, who gave their lives fighting the Yarnell Hill wildfire. I also ask for a moment of silence to take a moment to observe the passing of a truly great man, a dedicated statesman, human rights policymaker, honored Philadelphian, and a man of unshakable faith, Congressman William H. Gray III. Thank you. Welcome to the celebration of freedom, Philadelphia's official Independence Day ceremony. Y'all can holler for that. Today marks America's 237th birthday. And here we stand, in the exact same place where America's freedom and liberty was born on July 4th, 1776. What an exciting privilege to be here in Philadelphia on Independence Day. This year we mark the birth date of our world-changing democracy with the 20th anniversary of the nation's premier celebration of the 4th of July, Welcome America. With the generous sponsorship of Wawa for the past 4 years, Wawa Welcome America presents free family fun with activities that include the Party on the Parkway, beginning at noon today. I'm sure I'll see most of you out there. And this evening at 7 p.m., Wawa Welcome America presents the largest free outdoor concert in the country. The Philly 4th of July Jam, featuring The Roots. Wawa Welcome America's amazing house band, The Roots will take the stage alongside John Mayer, Jill Scott, Neo, Grace Potter, J. Cole, Hunter Hayes, and Ben Taylor. You can clap for that too. The Philly 4th of July Jam welcomes actor, comedian, and native Philadelphian Kevin Hart as the program host for this year's Jam. And I guarantee some big surprises in the way of added musical guests will also be added to the program. Then for a spectacular close to the 4th, a brilliant fireworks display lights up the sky over the parkway immediately following the Jam. And then there's more. We're not done yet. This weekend, July 5th through the 7th, Taste of Philadelphia showcases the city's favorite food vendors at Penn's Landing and features the best of local performers and the best of the food that we have to offer in this great city, right on Penn's Landing Riverfront Stage. Saturday, July 6th, welcomes the talented Marcia Ambrosius to the Taste of Philadelphia in a concert under the stars, followed by the Adventure Aquarium Waterfront Fireworks Spectacular. For the next hour, we'll welcome some very special guests to join us in honoring America's birthday, as it can only be celebrated right here in Philadelphia, right here where it all began. Then we'll step off the Philadelphia Independence Day Parade, America's most diverse 4th of July parade, with special guests Mallory Hagan, Miss America 2013, and salute the 50th anniversary of the pivotal events of the civil rights movement that took place in Birmingham, Alabama, with the float hosting Mayor William Bell of Birmingham.
The land of the free and the home of the brave. Happy birthday. Thank you for being with us this morning, and welcome to Independence National Historical Park. Thank you for keeping the faith with us on this weather. We have been so lucky with last night's concert and today, no rain. Thankfully, we are celebrating the 237th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The 237th July since our country's founders took the bold step of claiming freedom and independence from the most powerful nation in the world. They drafted the Declaration of Independence that put freedom into words. They fought and won a revolution against that more powerful nation. And they formed a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Yes, happy birthday to the United States of America, and hello, Philadelphia. As we think about those 237 years, we can say, thank goodness so many things have stayed the same, and thank goodness so many things have changed. Significant anniversaries tend to focus our attention on milestones in our history, and we have some big anniversaries to remember this year from 1863 and 1963. Here's a question for you. Would Benjamin Franklin recognize the nation that he helped to found? What do you think? Would Franklin be amazed to hear that the Constitution is still the law of the land but has been amended 27 times? Would he be shocked to learn that our nation endured 4 years of bloody civil war that resulted in the freedom of 4 million humans who had been held in chattel slavery? Would he be impatient that the concept of civil rights had to be spelled out again in 1963 and even after that? Oh, and by the way, would he be impressed that women have been elected to political office for many years now? Franklin was an optimist about the country's future in 1787, and as an inventor, he had a creative and educated mind, and he loved this country. So even if he didn't totally recognize the United States as we are today, I think he would be pleased that we have indeed hung together instead of be hanged separately. We have made progress together. The history that we celebrate today, the creation of our nation, reflects the accomplishments of many men and women. The survival and evolution of our nation reflect men and women from all Black backgrounds who claim the Declaration of Independence as their founding document. Men and women from decades after 1776 help resolve the paradoxes of our founding document and broaden its accepted meaning. The evolution of the interpretation and the law of the land was slow, and much blood has been shed and families divided over differences of opinion. Yes, the Civil War is directly connected to the founding of the country, and we are especially aware of that epic struggle now during the sesquicentennial events. 1863, 150 years ago, was a momentous year. 150 years ago, President Lincoln issued that Emancipation Proclamation. That move changed the nature of the Civil War, transforming the fight to preserve the Union to a battle for human freedom. 150 years ago this week came the military decisions from 2 major Civil War battles, the Union victory at Vicksburg and the desperate but ultimately Union victory at the Battle of Gettysburg. We know these battles now as the turning point in the war, but the war waged on for 2 more years with destruction and death and misery. Finally, though, there was reunification and 3 constitutional amendments that reframed the promises of the Declaration of Independence. The United States came back together, once more ready to strive to achieve that perfect union envisioned by our early leaders. But as a nation, we still faced many problems. Post-Civil War America remained torn apart as individuals had to continue to fight for decades for their civil rights. These individuals and groups, starting with the abolitionists and including suffragists, civil rights activists, and many more, have used Independence Hall and the Liberty Bell as symbols in their fight for their rights. We honor those references today. We gather here to celebrate the birth of our nation because of the significance of this place. Millions make the pilgrimage every year here. It is special every day. In fact, we started 2013 with a symbolic tapping of the Liberty Bell in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King called on all Americans to let freedom ring. The ceremony was especially poignant this year as the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington and King's I Have a Dream speech in Washington, D.C. And this afternoon, I will join a group of young descendants of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, along with 2 of our nation's newest citizens, to symbolically tap the Liberty Bell. Today's commemorative events, from this ceremony to the upcoming parade to the symbolic bell tapping, provide a way for us to reflect on the power of our nation's unity. And they also serve as a call to action, a call to look backward and to look forward, a call to strengthen and preserve our unity. Our nation's experience began here in Independence Hall when that group of colonists came together and adopted the Declaration of Independence. The strength of those words has carried many an American through difficult times. We are privileged to have a special guest here today to read those stirring words aloud. This year, as we said, our nation is marking the 50th anniversary of pivotal events of 1963 in America's civil rights movement, particularly in Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham's historic civil rights district was ground zero for the 1963 campaign. I can think of no better words than to capture the sentiments of this anniversary than those offered by the city of Birmingham themselves regarding those events. So I'll quote, "An afternoon at a lunch counter, 1,000 arms linked at the elbows, a firing of water hoses, a pack of German shepherds, a letter from a Birmingham jail, a devastating explosion, a world that would never be the same." So we're very honored today to have with us the Honorable William A. Bell, Sr., the 33rd Mayor of Birmingham. Mayor Bell told me this morning that he started his political career as a member of Birmingham's Historical Commission. So I think he's very well at home here in front of Independence Hall. And I'm very pleased that Mayor Bell is here to read the Declaration of Independence. So please welcome Mayor Bell.
It is with great honor that I stand before you to recognize that 50 years ago in Birmingham, Alabama, there was a movement that not only changed the lives of African American citizens, but a movement that changed the lives of millions of people around the world. Today I have the great honor of reading from the Declaration of Independence, which is stated is the want and will and hopes of a people. And it states, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light or transient causes. And accordingly, all experience have shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing an invariable the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patience, sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having a direct object, the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to the candid world. Thank you all very much.
Please welcome to the stage recording artist Ben Taylor.
America, how can we believe it after what we've been through? America, we can keep believing, but there's so much to do. So much to lose, ooh. She was as pretty as a dream, the most amazing girl I've ever seen. But not just did she look good, she made you free. She said you belong to me, and I won't see your spirit in shackles. But the snake makes apple wine for the paradise fair, and Eden bats the lashes of her eyes, lets her hair down. The dancing feet so fine, don't wanna go nowhere, but she gets thirsty for apple wine. Sometimes, America, how can we believe it after what we've been through? America, now we can keep believing, but there's so much to do. So much to do. So she took up with a blind man who seemed to have no feelings. He just couldn't get it right, man. Kept killing and stealing, and he moved all of her tribesmen to lives with lower ceilings, where their stories were needed, the forgotten wise. He made his fools king and made himself God. Traded guns and lives and drugs and cod. His wealth grew greater, he never learned to sing, but he always was a rather good sailor. Hey, yeah, America, how can we believe it after what we've been through? America, now we can keep on dreaming, but there's so much to do. So the old man, tired, could never really treat her right. She cried and cried and tried to make him see the light. He only lied and always had to pick a fight. He spends most of his time abroad nowadays, so now she's mine. It's time to get her back on track. I've drawn a line and I'm not looking back, because it's long past time. Even if she's been through hell with scars and lines, she's still so fine, my America. Well, how can we believe it after what we've been through? America, well, we can keep on dreaming, but there's so much to do.
Thanks, Joe. Happy Independence Day.
So Philadelphia has an undeniable claim on America's founding history. But history in Philadelphia is not only what happens way back when in colonial times, it's an ongoing living history, and we are its watchful stewards. Our city's early history was one of the great beginnings, proud, hard-won beginnings that set us firmly on the path to living the principles of freedom, justice, and the equality for all. To quote President Barack Obama, there are principles that define us as a nation, the values we cherish as a people, and the ideals we strive for as a society, even as we know that we constantly have to work in order to perfect our union, and that work is never truly done. If we're doing it right, we continue to perfect our union. Since revolutionary times, America's commitment to freedom and liberty has been continuously tested in faraway countries and right here at home. Americans have endured this commitment. This year, we observed the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 and honor the valiant soldiers and citizens who stood in defense of American Union on the grim battlefields of the Civil War. We salute the frequently unsung heroes of freedom, justice, and equality, such as Octavius V. Cato, the African-American scholar and Philadelphia educator who was an early dedicated civil rights activist. Octavius Cato fought fearlessly for desegregation and equal rights. During the early days of the Civil War, Professor Cato joined Frederick Douglass and the Union League in Philadelphia in the successful effort to raise 11 regiments of black soldiers. The regiments, known as the United States Colored Troops, fought bravely to defend Pennsylvania from the invading Confederate Army, and Octavius Cato was commissioned a major in the Pennsylvania National Guard's 15th Brigade. Tragically, the heroic crusader became a martyr to racism when he was assassinated by those conspiring to prevent him, as a black man and an activist, from casting his vote on Election Day in Philadelphia in 1871. Through the years, many have fought and given their lives on many fronts, both domestic and foreign, to protect our right, liberty, life, and the pursuit of happiness, the right that the Declaration of Independence claimed once and forever for all Americans. We honor these selfless sacrifices today with the Major Octavius V. Cato Medal, presented to two Pennsylvania National Guardsmen in recognition of their distinguished public service and community support. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Scott Hiriso of the Pennsylvania Air National Guard, presenting the Adjutant General for the Pennsylvania National Guard to make the presentation. Gentlemen.
Good morning, Mayor Nutter and distinguished guests. It is my true pleasure. July 4th, Independence Hall, Philadelphia. How much better can it get? I'm going to start with, and you got a brief description of Octavius Cato, my hero. Integrity, service before self, and excellence in all we do. That's Octavius Cato and these two recipients back here. That's why they're standing up here. Besides being recipients of this award, they're close friends of mine, and I'm very pleased to give them this award today.
This year we observe the 50th anniversary of the landmark events of the Civil Rights Movement that began with an organized protest at a segregated lunch counter in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963. We salute the men and women who put their lives on the line that day to courageously call on the promise of justice and equality that was pledged as the birthright of all Americans in Philadelphia in 1776. 20 years before the history-making Stand for Equality in Birmingham, at the height of World War II, African Americans were preparing to put their lives on the line to protect America's ability to endure and deliver on that promise. I have the honor of introducing two individuals who represent the honored ranks of the 994 Tuskegee Airmen who trained at the Tuskegee Army Airfield between 1941 and 1943. The record of their bravery and outstanding performance in the defense of our country came at a time when racial segregation was the norm in the armed forces. The flight training tactical skills gained in Tuskegee, Alabama saw 450 airmen through an amazing 1,578 missions within the span of 1 year, from June of 1944 to May of 1945 and the end of the war. Their courage and accomplishments as the first all-African-American U.S. Army Air Corps unit earned the Airman 95 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 8 Purple Hearts, and a Distinguished Unit Citation. That deserves a round of applause. 66 Tuskegee Airmen were killed in combat and 32 became prisoners of war. In 1948, President Harry S. Truman issued Executive Order Number 9981, which officially ended racial segregation in the U.S. military. largely due to the remarkable contributions of the Tuskegee Airmen. Today, we honor the members of the Tuskegee Airmen Philadelphia chapter. Gentlemen, as I call your name, will you please step forward and accept a commemorative Liberty Bell for Mayor Michael Nutter? Major John L. Harrison served as a pilot. Roscoe D. Draper, who served as a flight instructor. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your distinguished service to our grateful country.
Please welcome to the stage Lisa Nutter.
Good morning, everyone. Call and response, I love it. Throughout this morning's ceremony, the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Movement in Birmingham, Alabama, has been justly recognized as a transformative period in the history of human rights in America. It's also important to know that in 1954, the pivotal Supreme Court decision on an education case argued by then lawyer Thurgood Marshall, Brown versus the Board of Education, was a landmark achievement of the modern civil rights movement. This ruling to end segregated education was possibly the most radical and far-reaching aspect of the civil rights movement. Bringing children of all races together in the classroom was meant to alter their attitudes and the socialization of children beginning at the youngest ages. The struggle for an equal and quality education for all children was based on the belief that the dominant economic class could prevent access to the most successful schools for minority children. But it was also an acknowledgement that a good education is the passport to a successful economic future and the foundation of a healthy democracy. In 2013, access still matters. And while the law has established rights to an education and dismantled segregation, the matter of quality across states and communities has still eluded us. The global economy that our children are navigating is different from the one many of us grew up in. This new, more complicated 21st century economy is the one that brings a sense of urgency to the issue of education quality and equality. Yes, we've made gains. It's true that parents and children have more choices when it comes to education. It's true that there are no laws segregating us by race or in front of and allowing us to sit together in front of the blackboard. It's true that as Americans, we are unified in the belief that education is the key to good citizenship and decent employment. And it is also true that most people, rich, poor, and of every hue, try to make the best choices on behalf of their children, both our biological children and our village children. Fortunately, they won't just be shaped by the choices that we make for them, but also by how they seize opportunities, how they invest in their own learning, and how they establish and accomplish goals that they set for themselves. These two are choices, and our role is to be a tour guide in helping them to put the right experiences in front of them so that the path that they build toward their goals is both informed and reflects what they've learned. This is our role as parents, it's our role as neighbors, it's our role as community members. And we cannot leave these choices or our children's education to chance. In 2013 in Philadelphia, the birthplace of our nation, we are fighting to provide a quality education for all our kids. One that upholds the principles of our Constitution, one that truly prepares young people for life and economic liberty. And the building in front of you, the bell behind you, they're all symbols of a different time in history, as well as of our future. And they've been silent witnesses to our progress. But America's quest to be a more perfect union will be ongoing, incomplete, a work in progress, until we can ensure a quality education for all our children. This is why education is and will continue to be a top priority in our city, and why education sits in the center of every initiative undertaken by the Mayor of Philadelphia, my husband, Michael A. Nutter. Please welcome him to the stage.
Well, good morning. Good morning, Philadelphia, and good morning, my fellow Americans. It really is a great, great honor to be with you today, and certainly for any of our visitors, let me officially welcome you to the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, the place we know as Philadelphia. Lisa, thank you very, very much for that introduction and a particular focus, of course, on the number one issue facing our city, our state, and our nation, which is the issue of education. Let me also thank our city representative, Desiree Peterkin-Bell, Director of Communications and Strategic Partnerships, and her entire team for their tireless efforts at putting together today's festivities in particular, and all of Wawa Welcome America that we have to offer. We own the 4th of July here in Philadelphia. Please give them a round of applause. Let me also thank Ben Taylor for his performances, and how appropriate his last song, Good Day to Be Alive, on the 4th of July. It certainly is a good day. Let me also recognize one more time the members of the Philadelphia chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen who are with us today. That was a great honor. We were seeing living history right in front of us with those gentlemen. And of course, we did present them with the Liberty Bell, but I want to note the brave patriotism of the Tuskegee Airmen during World War II, their willingness to fight for a nation that treated them with disdain, and yet their commitment was to defend the principles of American democracy. These men deserve our endless gratitude and respect, and all members of our military need to be recognized for their great service to the United States of America. Please recognize our service people. We have many guests and visitors with us today from outside of our city, outside of our state, some even outside of our country. And I want to recognize our great consular corps. The first consular corps in the United States of America was formed right here in Philadelphia. They are great international partners for a great international city. And so let us please recognize our consular corps, our many members who are here. Please give them a big round of applause. We all had the pleasure a few minutes ago to listen to my good friend, the mayor of Birmingham, Alabama, Mayor William Bell. And I want to thank him for being with us today as we celebrate and commemorate two very important anniversaries in America's history. The 150th anniversary of the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation, and the 50th commemoration of the Civil Rights Movement in Birmingham, Alabama. Please recognize Mayor William Bell. Excuse me. Now, of course, the 4th of July is a day of celebration, of barbecues and fireworks and concerts. We do all of that and more here in Philly. But Independence Day should also be a day of contemplation of our great nation's origins, history, and democratic values. For me, it's a time to think about how much America has changed just in my relatively brief lifetime. I was born in 1957 as the Civil Rights Movement was gaining momentum. I was born at a time of strong extended families and neighbors helping neighbors, looking after their children and the entire block. But it was also a time of great uncertainty, uneasiness, and change. As a child, I remember the unrest and upheaval of the Civil Rights Movement, and now, 50 years later, an African-American man is the leader of our nation. As President Barack Obama knows, indeed, we have come a long way in these United States of America. "237 years ago, our founding fathers stood against British tyranny and proclaimed their right to a life free from oppression. And they fought for freedom, for a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is that fight for freedom and liberty, from the harbor in Boston to the Pennsylvania State House right here in Philadelphia, that gave birth to a new America. With the awesome courage of their convictions and strong will, our founding fathers built a great nation. The American journey has never been a perfect one. We have had great triumphs and disheartening defeats. It is our willingness to correct our own course, using as our North Star this nation's core values, that we preserve our status as a beacon of freedom and opportunity shining throughout the world. It is our recognition that the meaning of the founding principles of the Declaration of Independence must be reinterpreted from time to time to fit the times. We evolve. This year, as we celebrate the 150th anniversary of a moment when our nation expanded its definition of freedom. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln, who was morally opposed to slavery, issued the Emancipation Proclamation. It freed more than 3 million slaves in the rebellious states. It decried the injustices of slavery and promised that the government of the United States of America would protect that newly declared freedom. Later that year, during his Gettysburg Address, President Lincoln proclaimed, quote, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, and by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from the earth. We proclaim that every day. The Civil War would end in May of 1865, and with the passage of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution in December of 1865, slavery was abolished in the United States of America. Abraham Lincoln did not live to see either of these two incredible moments. The freedom that our founding fathers professed, that all men are created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, was evolving. And at that time, it only meant all men. And even then, it did not mean all men. And women's rights were to come later, and people of color even later. But Lincoln's new freedom wasn't as free as he had hoped. The end of slavery did not guarantee freedom and equality under the law or in the marketplace. It did not ensure justice or fairness. And for a century after the Emancipation Proclamation, the United States government failed to live up to the rights and responsibilities of its founding principles. Jim Crow laws segregated America and restricted the rights, and the civil rights, and the human rights, and the liberties promised to all of us. Today, we also are commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Movement in Birmingham, Alabama, where activists fought for equality, real equality, at a time when many thought that separate but equal was good enough. It was never good enough. In May of 1963, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson invoked the promise of a new, expanded freedom made by Lincoln and his Emancipation Proclamation, and acknowledged that freedom from slavery was not a freedom from oppression. He said, until justice is blind of color, until education is unaware of race, until opportunity is unconcerned with the color of men's skins, emancipation will be a proclamation, but not a fact. To the extent that the proclamation of emancipation is not fulfilled in fact, to that extent, we have fallen short of assuring freedom to the free, unquote. That struggle for the right to vote, for the right to be treated fairly, for the right to live, that struggle had many casualties. Leaders, advocates, freedom riders, and innocent citizens paid with their lives. Imagine going to church, synagogue, or mosque. You're dressed in your good clothes and shoes. You're excited to be with your friends. You head to the basement assembly room to hear a sermon entitled, "The Love That Forgives." Suddenly, a flash of light, a burning heat, a deafening explosion. A bomb placed under the stairway detonates, injuring 22 people and killing 4 sweet little girls at the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, in September of 1963. It was a shocking and devastating act of racially motivated domestic terrorism. On this commemoration, we remember those little girls. We remember Medgar Evers, an NAACP leader, gunned down in the driveway of his home that June. We remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his March on Washington in August. We remember the voices that were stolen and the lives cut short to make sure that freedom, and justice, and equality would become a reality in America. Slowly and painfully, America has seen progress. 1964 brought the Civil Rights Act, which outlawed major forms of discrimination on the basis of race, ethnicity, nationality, religious affiliation, or gender. It was followed by the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which outlawed discriminatory voting practices responsible for the disenfranchisement of many African Americans and other people of color. But just like Lincoln's freedom, this progress has been uneven. Our nation makes giant leaps forward and then sometimes stumbles backward. Just a week ago, the Voting Rights Act was dealt a significant blow by the United States Supreme Court. In its 5-4 split decision ruling in Shelby County versus Holder, the Supreme Court struck down Section 4B of the Voting Rights Act. The court said the formula that determines whether or not a state needs preclearance to change voting procedures is unconstitutional. This decision was certainly a disappointing one. It diminishes necessary voting protections that have had bipartisan support for decades. It is an affront to the right to a fair and just voting process for every American. Now, we're not quite sure exactly what the decision's impact will be, particularly with the new voter ID laws that have been enacted in so many states. But I commend President Obama, who has called Congress to action against this detrimental decision to make sure that every American's voice and vote is heard and counted. The day after the Shelby County decision, the Supreme Court ruled on the validity of the Defense of Marriage Act, a law specifically aimed at limiting the rights of our lesbian and gay citizens. In another split decision, the Supreme Court ruled unconstitutional the law that prevented the federal government from recognizing state-sanctioned same-sex marriages. Now, this ruling doesn't make gay marriage the law of the land, but it is a tremendous first step for full LGBT equality, a movement that I proudly support here in Philadelphia. The truth is that last week was certainly an exciting week in America. In addition to these landmark Supreme Court decisions, the United States Senate passed comprehensive immigration reform. For years, Americans have called for common sense reform of our badly broken immigration system. The Senate bill, while it may not be perfect, it does address many critical shortfalls in the current system and supports a pathway to earn citizenship for millions of hardworking people. America is a nation of immigrants, built by immigrants, founded by immigrants, and people will be here till the end of time. Our makeup is constantly changing as we welcome people who desperately want to be Americans. And with our changing demographics, America must once again reinterpret its core values and principles through the modern lens, just like President Lincoln did, just like the Civil Rights Movement did, just like all of us must do. Immigration is a 21st century struggle, and its impact will define in the future how we define freedom. But I know that it is a struggle worth fighting because it will forge a greater and stronger America. At the heart of the 4th of July celebration is a continuous struggle for basic human rights and freedom, liberty and democracy, justice and equality. As a society, we struggle every day to live up to the guiding principles of the Declaration of Independence. It is seeing our history as Americans and our definition of freedom as ever evolving. Our responsibility as a people, a government, and a nation is to ensure that we remain committed to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness everywhere for all Americans. May God bless you. May God bless Philadelphia. And God bless the United States of America. Have a great 4th.
Now let's enjoy some entertainment from performance group On Edge with a musical selection from the Welcome America Mass Choir.